Hello and welcome to Divorce Literacy. I'm your host, Alex Sanchez, and today I have the privilege of spotlighting my dear friend and colleague, Jeralyn Lawrence. How are you, Jeralyn?
Hi, Alex. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, and congratulations on your new office located in Watchung.
Thank you very much. We are excited to be in our new home. So
Yes, yes.
thank you.
Jeralyn, so tell us a little bit about who Jeralyn Lawrence is and your practice and why family law.
So who am I? So I'm a divorce lawyer. I'm a mother of three.
Oh, wow.
My oldest daughter just started college, so she's in Florida. So that's been an adjustment. And then I have twin boy-girl twins. They're 13, so they keep me very busy. I have my own firm here in Somerset County. We also have an office in Monmouth County, 9 lawyers in my firm, and we specialize on divorce and family law. And I have really just a great team, great people, great lawyers. What got me into family law? My father is a retired juvenile detective, and I've talked law with him for as long as I can remember. I thought for sure I would be a prosecutor. That's really what I wanted to do. When I was at Seton Hall Law School, I interned at the United States Attorney's Office. I had done an internship during the summer at the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office. And somewhere in my life, I saw the movie The Burning Bed with Farrah Fawcett. She was a victim. She was the actress, but it was based on a real life story. She was portraying a victim of domestic violence who ended up killing her abuser. And I had not even known that that was a thing in the world, let alone our country. My parents are still happily married. I'm one of 5 kids. So that's what I grew up with. I grew up with, a really happy home. And I had no idea that domestic violence was such an issue in our country. And so I thought I would prosecute abusers. I really wanted to get into the prosecutor's office and focus on victims of domestic violence. In law school, I ended up in the family law clinic, and then one thing led to another. I ended up clerking in Essex County and then didn't go to the prosecutor's office. I went to Norris McLaughlin, one of the largest law firms in my county, stayed there for about 20 something years. I was the chair of our family law department. I was on the firm's management and compensation committee, but my team and I left that firm to start Lawrence Law. And so that happened a couple years ago. And so that's really been my journey. I just concluded my presidency for the New Jersey State Bar Association, which was really a wonderful year. The year before that, I was president of the New Jersey chapter of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers. And so those terms as officers and helping those organizations really was exciting in that we were able to advocate for change and try to effectuate change either substantively in the area of the law or really a big push right now has been attorney wellness.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me. That's what I do, and that's my path to where I am today. And now happy to be in a new building around new space and settling in here and working hard trying to take care of clients who are either going through a divorce or have some other family related matter.
Right. Now, Jeralyn's been she opened up doors about 5 years ago, right? Back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And
That's right.
but Jeralyn has what 24 years, 25 years of experience working with divorce cases, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to spotlight you, Jeralyn, because your practice has been solely on family law divorce, and you're a specialist. That's exactly what you do, and you've been doing it
Yeah.
for so many years. You know the ins and out of a divorce case, and it's different dealing with someone with an attorney that specializes on divorce cases as opposed to an attorney that's kind of has does a little bit of everything. Big difference. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I mean, I think I think many, many years ago, you would see a lot more general practitioners. People would just hang up their shingle, and anything that walked in their door, they were handling. I think the practice of law has changed a bit. I think you see less and less general practitioners, and you see a lot of people specializing in an area. And that's really just because the law really is so complex. There are sometimes lawyers who think they can just dabble in family law, and it's just not an area of law that you can dabble in just because it intersects with so many other areas of the law. You could be doing business valuations, you can be doing real estate appraisals and figuring out those values. Executive compensation can become quite complex. So that can also bring in tax issues and tax basis issues. And, then you also have custody and parenting time and child support and alimony. So I think it's important to specialize. My entire firm, that's all we do. We don't practice anything else. Everybody here is specializing in family law and really trying to hone that craft, because cases are coming out every day that you really have to know about and how it impacts your practice and, more importantly, your clients that you're serving.
Yeah, oftentimes I have clients where they're entertaining the thought of divorce, and they have loved ones who care about them, and they're giving them advice on what's their rights, and you're entitled to this, and I tell them all the time, get advice directly from a specialist, someone who specializes in divorce, because laws change in your industry, just like in my industry, changes every year.
Right.
So what could apply to a divorce case 5 years ago is not the same thing as today, and that's the reason why you need to reach out to Jeralyn's office and schedule at a minimum a consultation to get the information directly from a specialist. Jeralyn, every case is unique in its own way. And what advice do you have for someone that is starting a divorce case or entertaining the thought of divorce? What kind of advice will you give that individual?
Knowledge is power. And really the fear of knowledge is power. And the fear of the unknown can sometimes paralyze you. So that initial consultation with your lawyer is probably the most important hour or so you're going to spend with the lawyer. There are so many myths and legends out there that are just not true on the internet. I've never done the same divorce twice. So when someone calls me and tells me, my Aunt Sally got this or that, it's important that you have a lawyer talking to you about your specific set of facts and circumstances of your relationship or your marriage. And that way you can decide based on that advice what it is that you want to do. Some people say, now that I know, I'm not getting divorced, or now that I know, I'm getting divorced immediately, or now that I know what I need to do for the next couple weeks, months, or years, and stay tuned. But I think educate yourself so that you know what your rights are and what your obligations are, what your risks are. I ask my clients all the time, where do you want to be in a year? So from when we start to where we finish, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in your house? Do you want to be in a mountain house? Do you want to be in a beach house? Do you want to be working? Do you not want to be? What is it that you want? And then you begin that strategy to try to get them to that place in a year so that they're focused on that, so that they're focused on their journey, that next step of their journey, and how we can get them there. So that would be my most important advice, I think, is just really educate yourself. Don't believe what other people are telling you about their breakup or their divorce. It may have absolutely nothing to do with yours. And please don't trust everything you read on the internet. So many people call and say, I don't want to abandon the house. I'm like, well, there's really, no such thing. Or how many people believe that adultery may matter or will impact the financial settlement of a case, where in New Jersey, unless it's egregious fault, really doesn't have a place in the ultimate outcome of a divorce. Again, depending on facts and circumstances, but there's so much out there, and I think it causes so much fear, and really someone can become paralyzed from moving forward. So just educate yourself.
Jeralyn, what should they prepare themselves as what should they have gather or prepare, like as far as documentations? Should they even have anything ready for when they do consult with you or your office, or should they just show up and give you their story? Or what advice do you have as far as documentation for them to bring with them?
I love consultations where the clients are prepared, but some people are not. Some people, they don't even know where the checkbook is.
Right.
So it can run the gamut. But if you have tax returns, 3 to 5 years of tax returns would be great for me to review. If you don't have that, you can just go onto Social Security Administration. You can go on ssa.gov and get a printout of earnings. That's a wonderful snapshot for me to take a look at historical earnings based on what's been reported to Social Security. Now, if you have somebody that's, a cash earner or, not reporting all of their income, that's another story. If you have a W-2 employee and they're working at a company, the employee handbook or documentation that they get listing what their salaries are and all their benefits or any other forms of compensation is helpful. So certainly income information, however I can get that, if that's W-2s or pay stubs, very, very helpful. Copies of any bank statements or retirement account statements. If there's executive compensation, such as restrictive stock or stock options, if there's any statements in that regard, that's helpful. If there's real estate, what kind of information do they have on that? Have they refinanced? Are there appraisals? Any information with regard to values, current mortgage statements are helpful. If there's lines of credit, are they lines of credit, or what are they? Is it an open line of credit? Do you need dual signatures on that line of credit? So the more they have for me, the better, but I don't want to scare anyone either. If you don't have that, we can get that. And don't be embarrassed or ashamed if you don't know. I mean, there are very traditional marriages out there where one party takes care of all the finances, and the other part of the partnership doesn't have anything to do with the finances, and they don't know. That's not a reason to not move forward. We'll get you that information, but if you have it, certainly helpful to have.
I want to go back to what you said. Knowledge is power. Don't rely on the information you see on Google or on the internet. And I just want to share that. By the way, I'm going to include a link to Jeralyn's website. Please look into it, because Jeralyn offers a lot of information on her website, a blog information. You can sign up for her information, and you'll definitely receive up-to-date information that's needed in regards to a divorce case. So definitely check that out. Jeralyn, what qualities or criteria should a client look for in an attorney before acquiring their service? What kind of qualities or criteria should a client look for in a divorce attorney to represent them?
Well, I think they're going to learn if there's a connection on that initial consultation. That's why I think that meeting is just so important. You're going to want to make sure that lines of communication are open, that you can talk to your attorney and share with them what your concerns are, what your goals are, what your fears are. I think the number one complaint clients have with regard to attorneys are attorneys that are non-responsive. We have a policy here that every email or phone call is returned within 24 hours. So I think that alleviates a lot of client concern. Now, you may not get a substantive response within 24 hours, but you'll get a response, and you'll either have a phone call scheduled or a time when you'll know that you'll get a substantive response, because I think that's really what causes clients so much concern and fear, and then their mind just kind of gets away from them, as if their questions aren't answered. So I think you're going to want to know, what's the communication policy? How do you reach your attorney? When can you expect a return phone call back, a return email? So modes of communication are important. But I also think it's important for clients to know how lawyers bill. Lawyers bill based on time spent on the file. That's what we have. We sell our time. That's our commodity. We sell our knowledge, and how we're generating revenue is based on hours we sell. So you want to make sure you are using your resources wisely. Your lawyer is not your therapist. Now, many times there's certainly a blending of that, and I am doing quite a bit of therapy through my lawyering, but that's not what I am.
Right.
So when clients are working with the therapist or somehow involve themselves in the therapeutic process, because divorce or break, you don't have to be married. We represent a lot of unmarried people. Breakups are hard. I've been divorced. I remember, sitting on my bed at night crying so hard my nose would bleed. I remember that feeling and being terrified about custody and parenting time issues. But it wasn't the place for me to talk to my divorce attorney about that. The place for me was to work those issues through with my therapist, so that my lawyer had the time to focus on my legal needs.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice.
So I think that's important, is to just, sometimes you need to build a village around you to get you through this process, whether it's through a real estate expert like yourself, a therapist, a financial expert, a divorce lawyer, so that everybody's kind of staying in their lane, but helping you get you through this journey, and where do you want to be so that you're happy.
Excellent advice, Jeralyn, and I relate as well, because I went through a divorce myself, and I remember not having the right person to speak to, and I fell into that trap where I thought my attorney was my therapist, and came to find out it wasn't. And at the end of the day, that's one of the things that I regret, is not involving a therapist into the process, because it would have relieved a lot of emotional stress and pain that I was going through. But very great.
Well, it leaves you frustrated, and then the lawyer's frustrated, and then that's a breakdown of communication, right? It's hard, but what lawyers should be suggesting at that point is for you to avail yourself of anybody, of the therapeutic process, and try to work those issues out. There's also a ton of books out there, so many resources out there of people like us that have been divorced and lived it, and that can shed some light as to how to get you through it. So just don't be afraid to ask for help.
Jeralyn, with all your years in practice, what memorable case, without going into too many details, what memorable case do you remember that actually had an impact in you that sticks out to this day?
There really are so many. I've run the gamut. I've had some very, very tragic cases where I've had a father kill himself and his son, out of really just desperation, because he thought he would lose his son and he was not going to. But so I've had that, which stays with you every day, to fighting a case where a baby was kidnapped and taken to Greece, and I had to fight real hard to get the baby back, to right now we're dealing with a parental abduction to the UK, very hard to get the child back. Those cases stay with you, really tough custody and parenting time cases. But mostly what stays with me are those letters that I get 2 or 3 years post-divorce from clients that are happy. And the pain and the bitterness of the divorce has left them, and they've embraced their new life, and they're happy that they've taken that leap. Sometimes they didn't choose it. Many times they did choose to end the relationship. But to me, that's the most gratifying, when they've moved on, they could be remarried or in a different relationship, have had more children, are in the job of their dreams, but they've really been able to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and are living a really happy life. To me, and that happens more often than I can count, thank goodness. So to me, those are the most rewarding.
Jeralyn, it sounds like there is life after divorce.
Well, I'm living it. It sounds like
Same here.
it sounds like you're living it. So I think we're proof positive. And look, I've had dark days. So I used to carry around in my wallet, it was a saying, it's always darkest right before dawn, because I was, and I needed to remember that that's where I was at that moment. It was not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And now I try to remember feeling that way, and I can't. I just, it feels like a different lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But I think it's important with every client that I meet that that's how they feel, and to try to relate to them and let them know that I don't want to make it about me, but that I've been where they've been, and hopefully I can help them on their journey.
Yeah. And Jeralyn, as getting married is so much easier than getting a divorce. When you're getting married, they don't hit you with all these rules and regulations, and you're entitled to this and that, and we're no advocates of divorce either. We're not here pushing divorce. But what advice would you give that young couple that's looking to tie the knot, and what should they look into? I know for a fact that the highest percentage of divorces are caused because of finances.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you marry into debt, not knowing you're marrying into debt. So what advice do you have for that young couple that's looking to tie the knot, or a couple that's looking to tie the knot?
They should, if they're coming into the relationship with assets or income or a family money or businesses, they should certainly talk about a prenuptial agreement and see if that's a document that works for them and what that would look like, what they would look to protect there. But in any marriage, right, it's all about communication, compromising, and trying to work together. And I think it's just so important to marry somebody that you respect and in every sense is your best friend through good and bad. So even when you hate them and they don't know how to empty the dishwasher, which would be mine, you have to try to talk about things. Try to never go to bed angry. I think that's important. And, so long as you maintain the friendship, even with kids, my husband and I, we went away this past weekend, just went to a football game, and we hadn't done that really since the pandemic. And at some point he looked at me, he's like, you're a lot of fun. You forget,
Right.
if you get into a rut of
routine,
not doing, only focusing on your job or, your bar commitments or your kids, and you forget that there's a relationship there to try to nurture and work on. Just always prioritize that relationship.
Jeralyn, what makes a successful divorce?
I think the ability to compromise, to really understand that to get something, you need to give up something. There's no winners in a divorce. And as I try to say to my clients, I'm not a civil lawyer where you're either going to win a big monetary judgment or lose. I'm not a criminal lawyer where you're either going to go to jail or you're not. I'm a family lawyer, and I'm going to ask you to give up something to get something.
Yeah.
And please don't draw lines in the sand, and don't tell me if somebody doesn't do this, it's over and you're walking away and you're taking your tools and your toys out of the sandbox. You got to check your ego at the door. You have to compromise. And even when you think you're done compromising, you have to compromise some more. And if you have children, every decision that you make, keep them in the forefront of your mind, because they didn't ask for this and they don't want it. And they love both their parents. They will always love both their parents. That's the greatest gift we have as parents. No matter how much we screw things up, our kids still love us. So allow them to be kids. Keep your divorce to yourself or to your therapist or to your girlfriends or your guy friends. Don't involve your kids. Allow them to be kids, and strive for the day that when they're old enough, they can turn around and say to you, thank you for how you conducted yourself, in your breakup, because there's parents out there that don't do that, and they just cause so much damage to their children. And they're so quick to point the finger to the other party and say, I'm not doing it, the other party is. But so that would be my number one thing. Put the kids first, keep them out of the middle.
And that's great advice, Jeralyn, because as a young father, I think that would be the biggest compliment I would get from my daughter one day. Thank you, Dad, for keeping everything together and not putting me in a stressful situation. I think that's great what you said.
And not bad mouthing mom. Right. Because what I say to my clients is, when you bad mouth the other parent, you're really just bad mouthing your child, because they're part of that parent. I said, so if you feel like doing that, just go punch your kid in the face. And they're like, well, I'm not going to punch my kid. I said, well, what's the difference from punching them in the face versus bad mouthing the other parent? The effect is the same. But I think the visual of them thinking, wow, those words matter, and it's the equivalent of a punch in the face, it drives it home more. So just give your kids the gift of not punching them in the face, either physically or with words.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, words, hurt more than physical punches at the end of the day. Folks, please check out Jeralyn's website, and at a minimum, schedule consultation with her office. Jeralyn, thank you so much for being here. And any final thoughts you want to leave us with?
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you, and you've been a wonderful resource to me in helping my clients that want to keep a house or sell their house and refinance. You've really been a tremendous asset to many couples and families that I've worked with. So I want to thank you for all of your help and how good you are at your job. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Jeralyn. And folks, again, Jeralyn Lawrence from Lawrence Law. Reach out to her. Thank you, Jeralyn. Have a good day.
Thank you, Alex. You as well. Thank you.